A lot of people play Dark Souls 2, and a lot of people play Bloodborne. Each has its strengths and weaknesses, which are opposite enough that I feel like each series could stand to take a few cues from the other, but let's focus on Bloodborne for now. Just a heads up, my suggestions are not going to be based in a realistic chance of them ever happening via patch or anything like that, just some supremely wishful thinking that gets me hard. Let's begin in no particular order. Number 5, the Silver Cat Ring. As of right now, there is nothing that protects against fall damage in Bloodborne, and that completely baffles me. I never take the cat ring off when I play Dark Souls 2. Every time I skip a ladder because I can hit the ground without getting hurt, I get an admittedly gigantic boner. But no Silver Cat rune? Not even a Silver Cat blood gem? How many times have you taken that unavoidable fall damage right before the boss fight in Cainhurst Castle and thought, is this just a middle finger from Japan? You're gonna make me waste a blood vial because I supposedly broke my ankles falling 10 feet? It's like Far Cry 3 all over again. In that game, you could jump off your front porch and die of fall damage. I kind of want to take this opportunity while I've got you all on the subject to make a plea with any and all developers making any game where the protagonist has legs and there are platforms at a lower altitude than him. Stop acting like people's shins are made of balsa. Contrary to popular belief, bones can withstand some gravitational force. Bloodborne's not so bad in that regard, but it can still be annoying, so please put a fall reduction rune in the next Bloodborne DLC. Number 4, Summon Signs. Anyone who's played Bloodborne online doesn't need me to tell them that trying to connect specifically with one of your friends is nigh impossible unless you do it exactly right. It was so unreliable that people had to make a walkthrough for online connectivity. And part of the reason for this, I believe, lies in From Software overcomplicating the summoning method. In Dark Souls 2, only one person has to fiddle with any summoning items in order to have the option to connect with players, while the second person merely has to find a name on the ground he likes and press one button twice to start engaging in that jolly cooperation. In Bloodborne, both players have to ring their respective bells and then pray to the moon presence they did it in the right order with the right timing to actually be able to connect with anyone. I would want a co-op system identical to Dark Souls 2 for Bloodborne. Just redesign the signs and signatures to look more gothic or whatever. And while we're on the subject of cooperation, please overhaul the Chalice dungeon situation so that I don't have to play each depth twice in a row on either side of the host business. I envisioned a scenario where it didn't matter who was the host. You only had to go through each depth once, and both players could pick up copies of items and ritual materials from the chests. But I have to remember that this isn't a fantasy game. Wait, isn't it? At least make it so the co-op session doesn't end after each individual boss. I don't want to return to my world until every depth of those places is picked clean, and I'm sure I'm in the majority with that one. Number 3, OP leveling system. Since Bloodborne has less stats than Dark Souls 2, it costs more to level up because all of them are at least somewhat important to your success, save for maybe Blood Tinge or Arcane depending on your build. This means it is much harder to become OP in Bloodborne because you get much less points to pump into your offensive stats. In Dark Souls 2, it was possible to completely ignore 4 of your possible upgrade options for the entire game and put over 30 points into strength and or dexterity after finishing the first area, while maintaining a completely manageable level of survivability. Oftentimes, picking the swordsman class, I'd have 4 vitality for almost the entire game, and it almost never mattered, allowing me to dismantle certain bosses in record time. To me, that's the most fun I can have with a game like this. Once you've struggled your way to mastering a game of this difficulty, in my opinion, you deserve an easy mode to relax your way through. And it's a sacrifice play, defense for offense. It's a fair trade-off. The point is that Dark Souls had an avenue for players who were extremely confident in their ability to dodge enemy attacks to considerably buff their attack power and be rewarded for their skills. Bloodborne don't have that. Just once, I want to look Abritas right in her flowery vagina and say, 8 hits and you're gone. I want that power. Number 2, merchants. Bloodborne is a lonely place. The only people you consistently talk to are a blow-up doll and a cripple who turns out to be even more athletic than you are. Sure, you've got minor connections with whores and nuns, but all they ever do is try to give you their blood, which is apparently so heavily weighed down with nutrients you can only carry 1 vial at a time. Would you like some of my blood? Thanks, I'll put this on my shelf and treasure it always. Bloodborne could use some specialty merchants with rare items obtainable only by them. As much as I love spending too much money on Quicksilver bullets while talking to a bunch of shriveled midgets taking a bath together, I'd prefer some more human interactions. Number 1, weapons. I mean, obviously, it had to end with this, right? The lack of weaponry is the most common complaint this game receives, and for good reason because fucking duh. Trick weapons kick ass. Don't get me wrong, I think they're really cool and useful. There just needs to be like triple the amount of them. You've covered all the basic weapon types already, now it's just time to fiddle with stat values, scaling, and visual design. Bring back the boss weapon system from Dark Souls 2, but improve upon their formula by making more than 5% of them actually worthwhile. Have some enemies drop weapons exclusive to themselves, like the Mastodon Halberd in Dark Souls 2. Do this, and you'll quintuple the replayability of this game. And then you'll stop getting hate mail. Well, you won't, but it's a nice thought. I want to thank you guys for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, I have many more scripted videos, as well as Let's Plays of various games, all loaded with my razor-sharp wit and sexual charm. So feel free to like, share, and subscribe your way into my good graces. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.